Imagine uncovering a tomb in ancient Egypt, sealed away in the dark for over 3,000 years. Inside, among the gold and priceless artifacts, archaeologists find something completely unexpected. Resting quietly right beside the riches is a simple, unassuming clay jar. When they pry off the lid, they don't find dust. They find a thick, golden liquid that is perfectly edible. That liquid is honey, the only natural food on Earth that practically never spoils. But the journey of this immortal substance actually starts with something highly fragile. To entice insects, flowers produce nectar, a sweet, watery plant liquid. Left on its own, this watery syrup is a biological ticking clock. Its high moisture content guarantees it will rapidly ferment and rot. To turn that highly perishable plant secretion into a substance that can outlast human empires requires a massive, coordinated chemical supply chain, executed entirely by a tiny insect. The first link in this chain is the female worker bee, specifically the forager. Every single day, she visits up to 1,500 flowers just to gather raw volume. When she lands on a bloom, she uses her long, tube-like tongue, called a proboscis, to suck up the nectar. Crucially, she doesn't digest it for her own energy. Instead, she stores the liquid in a specialized internal pouch, called a honey stomach, completely separated from her regular digestive tract. Inside this isolated chamber, the bee introduces a special enzyme called invertase. As the fluid mixes in, it immediately attacks the plant nectar, breaking down the tough, complex sugars into simpler, highly digestible parts like glucose and fructose. With a payload of processed nectar, the forager flies back to the dark of the hive. The raw material is extracted, and now it is ready for the refiners. Once inside the hive, she passes the liquid on, mouth to mouth, to a younger processor bee. The processor bee takes over and essentially chews the liquid for about half an hour, working in a new set of enzymes secreted directly from her own glands. Looking at this gauge of the liquid's shifting chemical makeup, we can see exactly what those new enzymes do. They produce trace amounts of gluconic acid and hydrogen peroxide, steadily pushing the acidity up until the environment becomes totally hostile to bacteria. Even with this heavy chemical armor, the mixture remains extremely watery. If left alone, it would still spoil. To solve the final moisture problem, the processor bees distribute the thin, acidic syrup across the precise hexagonal wax cells of the honeycomb. Then, thousands of bees perform a highly synchronized physical feat. They stand directly over the open cells and beat their wings at incredible speeds, pulling the water out of the nectar. This chart tracks the resulting drop in moisture. Under the intense fanning, the water content plummets from a watery 80% all the way down to a stable 18%. At this exact concentration, the liquid finally becomes thick, sticky, and completely immune to fermentation. To protect their work for the harsh winter, the bees cap off the cell with a fresh, airtight layer of beeswax. By systematically shutting down bacterial growth with acid and forcefully evaporating the water, the colony engineers the exact biological preservation that allowed that jar to survive 3 millennia in the dark. Humans have harvested from this tiny workforce for millennia, recording our partnership in stone across early civilizations. This divided teaspoon illustrates the staggering microscale of their output. A single worker bee's entire life of labor yields just 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. To fill out just 1 pound, a single colony must collectively visit around 2 million individual flowers, and the cumulative flight distance required to gather that single pound equals orbiting the Earth 3 complete times. We build the wooden boxes and collect the excess, but the exhausting, highly technical labor remains entirely theirs. The very next time you stir a spoonful into your morning tea or drizzle it over your breakfast, take a moment to look closely at what you are actually holding. That single spoonful required a masterpiece of chemical engineering, tens of thousands of miles of flight, and the collective life's work of thousands of bees.